Are you feeling overwhelmed by all the blogging advice out there? Believe me, you are not alone. Today, I'm having a conversation with Amy Reinke and Jennifer Draper, giving you the exact steps that you need to take in order to turn your blog into a successful business. Hello, ladies. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having us, Jenny.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. I am so excited about having this conversation about the ultimate blog roadmap, how to go from overwhelmed to thriving. But before we jump into that, will you actually introduce yourself and your businesses to my audience?
Yes. So I'm Amy Reineke, and I'm one half of Spark Media Concepts. Jennifer and I started back in 2017 supporting bloggers with our business. And I had actually just become a blogger in 2017. I had served as Jennifer's VA, actually. And I always laugh when I share this story because I say I was her virtual assistant and we were actually next door neighbors. And so that is how it kind of happened. I looked at what she was doing. Like, we weren't even like really close friends. We were more acquaintances. And I was like, how is she doing this blog thing? Like, I was so curious how she was doing it. And she ended up meeting an assistant. I became that assistant by just a way of things. And then in 2017, Jennifer at my kitchen table shared the idea of helping other women start blogs. She had essentially just helped me create mine. And I thought she was a little crazy. And if you've spent any time or if you get to know Jennifer and I, you'll realize really quickly that our personalities are very different and we serve like two different kinds. So I pretend that, or I say that one of us is like right brain, one of us is left brain. Together we make the whole brain. And she had this idea of helping other women start their blogs. I thought she was nuts. I was like, that, this is before I feel like courses and things like that really were at the forefront. And she shared that with me in like, I don't know, fall of 2017. And I just was like, okay, that's neat. And in December of 2017, I was talking to somebody who essentially described the exact thing that Jennifer had told me that she wanted to do. And this person was like, I need help with this. And I was like, I can do that. Me and my friend Jennifer, we can do that for you. So I get in the car, call her, and I said, I know that was like a pipe dream. So let's do it. Like, let's start it. And that's how Spark was created. And so we've been supporting people in that way ever since. Jennifer is like the OG blogger. She started in 2013. But since 2017, we've been supporting bloggers. We have a membership and we have a podcast, and it's just our goal to help women understand like who they are and the impact that they have and not being afraid to use their voice.
For Draper. And I, like Amy said, I started my blog in 2013. And I started, I started as a food blogger, and I now own and run two food blogs, and just felt so passionate about blogging and was so thankful to have Amy along for the ride and realized that there were other people like us who were struggling out there with all the information overload. So when we were able to come together and create something where we felt like we could cut through the noise, it just felt like such a strong passion of ours to be able to help other women, because we were like, you could have a blog and you could have a blog and everybody should have a blog. And so that's kind of how our Spark Media Concepts and everything else came to be.
I love it. Yes. I always say that the website is the piece that you need. It is the only thing that is not rented property, because everything else is. They can take it and shut it down and change the algorithm on you, and you've lost all those people. So
Yes.
that website is just so important.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
What would you all say are the biggest mistakes new bloggers make that actually lead to overwhelm?
I think there's a couple pieces of it. One piece is like the technical piece. So, just getting in like over their heads and trying to figure out how to set everything up, and not taking the time to do it correctly from the start. So being like, oh, I'm not good at technical stuff. So I'm just going to set up like a Squarespace site or something like that rather than thinking through the step by step of what is going to be the best for their business, whether that's, learning a little bit more about WordPress and how to set up the website and things like that. So learning some of that back end stuff, whether or not you're going to ultimately create your website or hire somebody, but like understanding a little bit of that background piece, I think is really important because that's, like you said, this is the foundation of your business. And so you need to understand how it works and how to use it so that you have that power moving forward. And then I think the other piece that really truly leads to overwhelm is listening to too many people. There is so much information out there. You're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're looking at YouTube, you're reading all of this stuff, you're in different Facebook groups, and there's so many people giving advice, and a lot of it's probably great advice, but you have to like really focus in. You cannot do all the things. You can't do them all at once, at least. So really finding like a tried and true resource and then just making your plan and sticking to it. And I think that just having that like plan that you can walk through step by step and staying focused versus like letting all of that noise in and being like, oh, but then I have to create this amazing reel and I have to go viral, but I'm supposed to be creating blog content. When you're doing all the things, you're not doing one thing well. So pick the one thing or the two things and just really focus on those to get started and create your rhythm there. And once you have that mastered, that's when you can add new things.
Yes, I think it's so important to really understand almost like a pathway of focus for you. What direction are you going to be going? And to make sure that your foundation doesn't have cracks in it, because that is the biggest thing that I see. A lot of clients haven't set certain things up correctly and they have to go back. They're not growing their email list. They don't understand keyword research. They're whatever, they've grown their entire platform on Instagram. It's just, you have to really understand what you're trying to do with that. So how can someone pick the right niche without getting stuck in analysis paralysis?
This is a common question, honestly. And I think we get the question a lot of like, well, I want to talk about all the things. And that is a very common thing, especially for new bloggers or content creators, is that you do want to talk about all the things, but you do need to just have a moment where you can ask yourself the important questions and say, one, what are you really passionate about? What do you really want to talk about? What are people asking you about? You can have a blog that literally nobody cares about. And I don't mean that to be insensitive. I mean that to be like, you might really love oil painting orange flowers, but if nobody else loves to learn about oil painting orange flowers, you're literally never going to have anybody come to your site. So I think it's kind of like you have to hold two things in your hand. One, you have to do some keyword research and understand like what are people wanting to know more about? And two, what do you know a lot about? What lights you up? What are you passionate about? It doesn't mean that someday you can't expand that, but we really do believe, like we've talked about that foundation. When you begin, you need to have a really solid foundation. People and Google need to understand who you are, how you are serving, how you're showing up. And if you don't have that, if you don't know who you are, nobody else is going to know who you are either. And so I think that can cause a lot of the overwhelm in regards to like the analysis paralysis that you talked about. Like if you don't know who you are and if you don't know who you're serving, then you kind of are in that like that crazy mindset of like, well, I could serve this person and this person. And that doesn't serve you well. And it doesn't serve anybody coming to your website well either.
Absolutely. I always hear from clients, but I'm multi-passionate. I don't want to get stuck into a corner like baby. And I'm like, don't tell me that. We're going to get clear on. Yes,
Yeah.
you have to. You have to really get clear on who you're going to serve and how you're serving them. What problem do you solve for them? And like you said, this can change over time. You can choose to pivot. I've had clients that went from talking about sensory bins and then ended up with twins that were only not supposed to be twins. And she went, yeah, sensory bins don't work anymore for me. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the moms that need to be more self-aware and not feel like they're doing everything wrong. So that's who I'm talking to now. And she just pivoted all of her content to show that that was what her ultimate purpose was. And then moving forward, made sure that the content was very specific to that. You can pivot. You are not going to get trapped in this box right out of the gate and have to stay there forever and ever.
I think that brings up a really valid concern that a lot of people start with, is that they feel like when they choose their niche, they're married to it forever, and that you can never change, and I can never have a different opinion. I can never have new ideas. That is simply not true. We are multifaceted people. You are going to grow. Your opinions might change. You might totally disagree with something in 5 years that like is the hill you're going to die on today. And so when you can get over that part of it too, I think it's easier to choose like, okay, this is the path I'm going down right now. This makes the most sense right now. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the path forever, but right now, this is where I need to be.
Absolutely. So, what would you say are the essential elements every blog needs to start on the right foot?
Yeah, I love this question. And, you're going to get different answers depending on who you ask, but we've, worked with so many bloggers at this point. And I'm going to start with the number one thing that a blogger needs before they dive into this is they need to know their purpose, because things are going to be a little challenging. It's going to be a little difficult. And you're going to have to learn new things that you might not want to learn. So it's not always just the fun and passionate part of sharing content. You're going to have some things to set up in the first place. So having that purpose written down and something that you can look at as you're going through these steps is going to be critical. And then for us, we believe that having a self-hosted WordPress site is the foundation of setting up a blog that if you are going to create a monetized business from it, like if you're wanting to have ad revenue as part of your revenue stream. And so setting up a self-hosted WordPress site and then having the appropriate plugins that you need on that site for your site speed, for your image optimization, and for your security and for social sharing and things like that. Knowing what you need so that your website is functioning properly, and a good website theme is perfectly appropriate. You do not have to hire a web developer to create a custom site for you when you're first getting started. There are plenty of expenses when you're starting a business, and you can keep these pretty reasonable. When it comes to starting a business, starting a blog is not incredibly expensive. There are some things that you have to invest in, but you can start in some of these places right out of the box. And then the other piece that is so important is to sign up for an email marketing service and integrating that into your website so that you can start collecting email addresses from your followers, because that is something that you technically like you own. It's not like a social media platform that can go away. That is your direct line of communication as you start to build your following and your readers and your traffic. You want to capture as many of those people as possible so that they'll come back again and again and again.
Yes. And I will say that I think email was one of the things that I dragged my feet on the longest, because to me it was very tech heavy again. And the website had been tech heavy, and I'm not a tech person, but it is so much easier now than it ever used to be. And there are so many different softwares that make it so simple. There's plugins that can connect depending upon who you're using. Don't let that be something that holds you up. Plus, there's so many YouTube videos out there that will show you exactly step by step how to set it up. So that is definitely, I would wholeheartedly agree. Have your email software and then provide them with something in exchange for that email that they give you so that they can see your expertise and want even more from you through your emails, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
So, how can bloggers develop a content strategy that doesn't lead to burnout?
Great question. I think burnout is very real for entrepreneurs and content creators, because we feel that it's almost like that more content means you're going to be better. And I kind of want to flip the script on that a little bit and remind anybody who's creating content that being consistent is really important. And being consistent looks different for Jenny than it does for Jennifer, than it does for myself. And I think that we can often like look too much at what everybody else is doing and think that that's the way that you have to grow. And instead you need to like ask yourself, what does it take to grow? And if you're constantly like running someone else's race, you're going to get burned out. If you listen to podcasts all day, if you join a whole bunch of courses, like Jennifer said, if you have too much input, you're going to feel overwhelmed. And so I think that the best way to prevent burnout is, like we've talked about, understand who you're talking to, understand what your niche is, and then make a plan for yourself. Understand your time. We often tell our members to do a time inventory. Spend a couple days and like write down how much time you spend doing any given task. And that includes anything for your personal life and your family as well, because that does play into the equation there with how much time that you have. Nothing feels worse than saying, okay, I want to spend 20 hours a week working on this, and you actually only have 10. So you're already like out of the gate going to feel like you're failing. But if you have a clear understanding, this is the amount of time that I have to work on this, and these are the tasks that are the most important in this business right now, then you can make sure that your time is being used wisely and you're not like just spinning your wheels constantly. And I think a lot of times burnout comes from this inability to understand what's working for you and your business too. And so understanding like, okay, if I put out a blog post, how can I repurpose this content? So you don't need to recreate the wheel every single time, but that blog post, we recently did an interview on our podcast, and the guest told us that with one blog post, you should be able to get around 20 pieces of repurposed content from that. Think about that. Think about the overwhelm that can prevent. If you write one blog post a week, if you have the capacity to do that, and then you go into ChatGPT and you use that as a resource, as a way to say, okay, now help me create other content from this one piece of content, that right there is going to save you time, which is going to lead to less burnout as well. So I think it's looking at the big picture, understanding how much time you actually have, and then utilizing that to the best of your ability.
Absolutely. And I think too, like for some of you potentially listening, is that you may find that maybe your writing takes you longer, writing a blog post. So maybe you talk better. Start with the podcast as that one piece of content that you then take the transcript, turn it into a blog post. And at the same time you're doing the podcast, you record for YouTube and turn that into a YouTube video, and then have corresponding social media. It is all about repurposing. We have to get off that hamster wheel of just continually churning out new content for every single platform, when there are now AI tools that you can take a YouTube video and it'll spit you out 10 shorts right out of that you can use for Instagram, TikTok, whatever, wherever your people are. So yes, it's getting smarter and not working harder at it. Yeah. So I love that. What would you say is the best way to plan content to ensure steady growth?
Yeah, this is where you kind of have to turn into a little bit of a data nerd. And you know, as bloggers, I think a lot of us start out like, oh, I have this passion and I want to share what's on my heart and things like that. And yes, that's absolutely important. But you have to combine that with being able to know what are people actually looking for, because you asked how to ensure growth. And if you want to ensure growth, you have to create content that people want and need. And so telling yourself that, yes, you can have a list of brainstorm topics, but now it's time to dive into the data. We're going to have to use a keyword research tool, and we're going to have to find out, are people searching for this? How many people are searching for this? Is this a topic that I can be an expert or an educator on? Can I teach somebody something? Do I have something to offer in this area? And being really thoughtful about that. And then the second piece of that is, then once you are creating content, you're going back and you're reviewing that, the results of how that content is performing. So you're going into your Google Analytics and you're looking in your emails to see if people are responding to you about the content that you're writing, or in your DMs or whatever. You're collecting all of that data. You're looking at the numbers. and you're looking to see what is actually resonating with your audience. And then you can find common themes, and then you can create more content that links back and expands upon other things that you've written, so that you're creating the stuff that people really want to see. And so doing that on a regular basis, just having that on your to-do list, on your calendar, as like, okay, I'm going to review the results of what I've created. And then I'm going to use my keyword research tool, and I'm going to see what else I can do. Because if you're creating the content that people really want and need, that is going to be what's going to create that growth, rather than trying to find the next like viral thing that's going to get you a ton of traffic.
Yes, it's becoming that resource for them. So if you are that food blogger and you're getting a ton of traffic for cauliflower recipes, well, do you have the how to steam, how to go through and chop it, all the things that can lead to it to then be able to create the recipes and then go higher level with it. It's really creating that piece of just an ultimate resource for them where they can find everything they need in one place instead of having to go to 6 different websites and 8 different YouTube videos because the answer wasn't completely within your content. When you can be that ultimate resource, it just makes such a huge difference. So, how can AI or automation tools help streamline content creation?
I think it can do so many different things. I think it can do more things than we even realize. And we've kind of done a deep dive with this in the last several months here, and just utilizing it more. And I think we can use AI as an assistant, not as a replacement. That's been said by, I think you said it, Jenny. I think other people have said that too. And I think that that's a really common theme when we go into using these different AI tools. A lot of it in the beginning, I think when AI came out, we both had a negative connotation with it. We were at a conference actually, and there was an AI presentation, and we were trying to decide which ones we were going to. And I told Jennifer, I think I'm going to go to the AI one. Like, I just want to learn a little bit about it, just understand. And Jennifer was like, I am not going to that. No way, not doing it. And we met after, and I was like, you should have gone. Like, I just had my world rocked with this because like I said in the beginning, creating like content today looks so different than it did, and we have to remind ourselves of that. So if we need to streamline our content creation, then we have to find systems and we have to find processes that work for us that can be duplicated. Every time we go to write a blog post, we shouldn't have to like ask ourselves, now, how do I do this? But if you can use AI to go through that process, like, okay, you have a blog post. What are all the other ways that you need to become visible? What are all the pieces of content that can be created with this? Or maybe you just start with a topic idea. What can be created with this? Because we no longer have to just rely on our brains alone. We can use AI to help generate ideas. And I don't think that we should be afraid of that. And I think as women, we oftentimes are afraid of that because we're afraid of asking for help. And that's essentially what it is. And that was us in the beginning. Like, how are we going to implement this in our business? How are we going to use this? And what I can say is we use it for our business, and I use it in other aspects of my life as well. It really does just give you this broader array of topics to think about and consider, and like understand how you can make an impact in a greater way. And so don't be afraid to use it, and don't be afraid to test it out in different ways in your business. You might really love to use it in regards to like email marketing and helping you come up with ideas, but you may really hate using it for like an outline for a blog post. It just might not be what you need. But I think the more you use it, the better it becomes. And so not being afraid to kind of go from that negative connotation with it, and allowing yourself to see if this tool could be a game changer for your business. And not only that, but to go back to what I said earlier, to help prevent burnout. What can you do to just allow your business to run a little more freely? Because there's a lot on our plates as entrepreneurs, and not everybody has the capacity to hire multiple VAs. And so how can you use this free resource to help you get the content that you need out to be able to make the impact that you want to make and stay connected to your audience. Don't be afraid of asking for help in that way. And that's what we think AI can really do.
Yes, it's all about that process piece. Anything that you would
Mhm.
potentially want to hand off to a VA, hand it off to AI. Start
Mhm.
asking those questions
Mhm.
for sure. I've even
Yeah.
gone back through any of the products that I offer course wise, and I have all AI prompts that are now going to be incorporated into my courses because my process has changed because of AI. I don't need to go and search every single thing via Google about what brand to understand what they want when I could just go to AI and say, what is Smucker's looking for right now? And pitch me some ideas that I could send them over to it. It is
Oh,
so much
yeah.
faster. Why would I do
Mhm.
all the research legwork when it can do it for me? And
Mhm.
that is what I'm incorporating right into all of the courses that I offer. My programs have that in there. So it does. It's just a huge piece of the process that can make things so much simpler. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
now you all offer a beginner blogger tips playlist. Can
Mhm.
you tell us a little bit about this? We're linking to it in the show notes so y'all can make sure that you can grab it. It's on Spotify so that you can listen in just like you are to this podcast. Um, Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So this playlist was created for the person who's like at that beginning stage of like wanting to start a blog. Like, what are some important foundational steps that you need to consider when you want to start a blog? It's got 4 episodes in it, and it'll take you under 2 hours to listen. So you can just pop in an AirPod, go about your day, and just listen to what we have to say about how to get started blogging. That's really who it's for. I do also want to mention that for those of you who are listening, because I know you have a lot of like seasoned content creators and people who have done this for a long time, we do have a membership called the Ultimate Blog Roadmap, and this was designed in order to support bloggers of all levels. And so that is something that we are really excited to offer bloggers along with the podcast who just want like a higher touch, who want to understand like how to grow and how to essentially increase their visibility and to really understand how to blog the right way. Jennifer mentioned it earlier, but there being a lot of voices in and like knowing where you can go, like, this is where I need to go to get the best blog advice. We'd love to have you learn more. And that website is ultimateblogroadmap.com.
Link to that in the show notes for sure. I appreciate you both so much for taking the time to speak with me and share your knowledge with my audience. Thank you both so much. Be sure, if you haven't already grabbed our strategic growth guide, that you head down into the description and grab it. It's going to help you really understand how you can better position yourself to be able to stand out. We're also making sure that we are linking to the sound bites that Amy and Jennifer are both offering to help you on your blogging journey.